Kingwood Center was the former estate of Charles Kelly King, who built the house in 1926. He owned the property longer than that, but it was shortly after his second marriage that he built the large mansion and expanded the gardens and really brought the place into its status as a country place era home. 47 acres. He had gardeners and housekeepers, and it was sort of the whole 9 yards in its day.
There are lots of people who are gardeners who are drawn here. We have master gardeners and people that are very interested in gardening who come to learn more about horticulture and gardening, whereas there are lots of people who just come with their families just to walk around and enjoy the beauty. They see what a beautiful place it is. They see the birds, they see the plants, and so it's just a great place for lots of people, you know, to use. It's not just for people that like gardening and horticulture. It's other people who just enjoy beauty and the tranquilness of the grounds.
Charles Kelly King was an interesting fellow. He came here from Maine in the late 1800s to work for a company called Ohio Brass, which developed into a major manufacturing company here in Mansfield. And Charles Kelly King was an electrical engineer, and he brought a whole sort of new product line to Ohio Brass. And they expanded, and as they expanded, his position and authority grew. He became the president and eventually the chairman of the board of Ohio Brass, and that's where he made his money. When Mr. and Mrs. King decided to build this house, they engaged Clarence Mack as their architect. Kingwood is his largest house that he designed. It's about 20,000 square feet. And he not only designed the houses, not only for Mr. King, but other people, he would also do the interiors. So he bought much of the furnishing and laid it out in the house. Mr. King, of course, had no children, and so he started thinking about his legacy long before he died. In the 1930s, he commissioned a study about what might become of his estate, because he had thought for a long time before his death that he would want to leave this behind as some kind of permanent structure. Finally, he settled on the idea of making this a horticultural feature. Now it's become much more historic. When he finally died, there was very little reference to any kind of historical preservation, but the house is so unique and the furnishings are distinctive of their time, and so that element is gradually creeping in, but our primary feature and our activities remain making this the best garden we possibly can.
There are still some original structures and areas of the grounds that were here when Mr. King was here. The formal gardens is one of those, and that has the original bathhouses where the swimming pool was. There's also a round pool in that garden, which is still original. The duck pond is another one that is original to the grounds, and it was used for ice skating in the wintertime, but also could be used if we needed water for the grounds or for maybe a fire. So they use that, and we've maintained that structure, and on that we have lots of different ducks and geese. And now many of the other gardens have areas in them. They might have a piece of sculpture in them, or they may have some unique plants or benches or tables or things like that, which also add to the ambiance of the garden.
A lot of times when people ask about Kingwood and they're just trying to find out what sort of place this is, they'll say something like, well, how many staff do you have working there? Or is this run by volunteers? And yes, we definitely have a lot of volunteers, and they're integral to our operations. I don't know what we could do without them, especially our big events where we need just a lot of people all at once. But the professional staff is essential to a place like this as well.
Many of us have been here for years and years, and we all have that strong interest in gardening and horticulture, and we just really love what we do. We're in the profession because of that. Then all of our volunteers are the same way. They want to be here to help and keep Kingwood as beautiful as it has always been.
All of us here at Kingwood want to not only be knowledgeable about the gardens and the plants, but we also want to relate to the public so we can send our mission on to them and instill into them the joys that we have with gardens and gardening.
For me, Kingwood is just a special place. It always has been. I've come here since I was a child. I've always loved it. I love plants, and that's what draws me back to Kingwood.